When I talk to others about space settlement, in the real world, I often get asked one question: what does it do for me? And what I mean by that is, what does it do for me as an average human here on Earth? It really depends on who you are as to how space settlement will affect you in the future. And that got me thinking, though, what about you? What about you watching this video right now? What will space settlement do for you, the average human here on Earth living life? Let's find out. First and foremost, when we're talking about space settlement, I'm talking about real, proper settlement of space for long-term human habitation. A lot of the plans going around right now, specifically those surrounding moon development, don't include humans because, fun fact, we're expensive, we're heavy, and the stuff we require is even heavier. So, robots it is. I get it. They're light. They don't require air, water, oxygen, to live. When we begin to look at long-term space settlement, that's when we begin to realize that there are a lot of problems that have to be solved, specifically surrounding the three pillars of space settlement: space medicine, space biospheres, and space law. And when you begin to solve those problems for human condition and human habitation and human long-term sustainment, you also begin to solve a lot of problems we have here on Earth as well. Namely, among those, let's start at the top with space medicine. Solving space medicine really means creating systems and solutions that work even when there is no doctor present. We're talking about things like cures for cancer, and more specifically, remediations for radiation-caused harm. Fun fact, space, it's full of radiation, and that's not a good thing for the human body. So finding ways to combat that is huge. Also, talk about breaking an arm on the moon, and the nearest hospital is 2 days' journey away. That's what we deal with here on Earth with regards to Antarctica and the experiments and scientific community that's living down there now. But it could be better, and those better solutions then can also be used on Earth to help people here on Earth. And there's a litany of medicine that has yet to be created that will be required for long-term sustainment in space. Secondarily is space biospheres, pillar number 2. Space biospheres, we're talking like, how do you maintain air, oxygen, recycle all of that within a closed system? Because, fun fact, you open the door in space and that's vacuum. And you know what vacuum does? It kills you. Not that fast, it turns out. It takes like a minute, but still, you die. So developing systems that are robust, reliable, and scalable, because again, we're talking about space settlement as an ad hoc, we're talking about space settlement long term, we're talking about living in space for generations. That means these systems gotta work, and they gotta work all the time. They can also be used here on Earth as climate change begins to really impact people's lives. Having robust biosphere systems, such as recycling systems or food production systems, are actually going to make our lives here on Earth so much better without relying on the environment around us to provide, aka climate change issues. Combining then space medicine and space biospheres, you enter into space psychology, which not really a pillar in and of its own because it's a subsection there of space medicine, but the two together ultimately will dictate how well a crew or a settlement is able to handle long-term space exposure, because the mental aspect is incredibly difficult to determine right now because we have so little research on it. And finding solutions to the problems that the research identifies can then only benefit those here on Earth who also encounter those same problems. Again, solving space problems will also solve Earth problems as well, across the board. Something else to keep in mind with space biospheres, though, is size and mass. Now, fun fact, the worst way to get to space is in a Winnebago, not because it is a Winnebago, but because it's too heavy and you would need a giant rocket to launch it. So tiny spaces are going to be a requirement here in the near term of space settlement. As I think we all know, living in tiny homes is not necessarily the easiest thing in the world to do. It is tricky and it requires a lot of thought, planning, and to some degree lifestyle adjustment to do so. However, building systems, building processes, and building out environments that operate incredibly efficiently will also help people here on Earth who either choose to or have to live in tiny spaces here in our continually urbanizing environments. Specifically, I'm talking about people who have to live in tiny spaces for long hauls. Think ships, spaceships. The third pillar is space law, specifically determining how we govern space and defining what this new type of governance structure and potentially even economy looks like will have profound effects here on Earth and vice versa. The precedents set by the laws and expectations and ultimately the economic system here of Earth will have some imprint upon space, but space will necessitate, true settlement will necessitate a change in these perspectives that hopefully will lead to a more equitable future for all of humanity. Not only here on Earth, but out in space as well. Ultimately, solving these problems in space will lead to a far more equitable redistribution of the solution here on Earth. Because, fun fact, for the most part, depending on where you are, but for the most part, you can go outside and look up, and that is space. Everyone should have access to space. Everyone can see space. So the solutions in space, in my mind, should be provided to all here on Earth. I hope now that you see why settling space is both beneficial to not only settlement of space, but also to the average human like me and you here on Earth. So now, when you go out in the real world and ask the question, or get asked the question, why settle space? You actually have a good answer, and it's an abstract answer. I will do more videos going deeper into each of these topics and talking more about what problems and challenges are currently facing us when it comes to long-term space settlement, but also talk about what the solutions are and how those solutions solve Earth problems as well. Now, if you enjoyed this conversation about why we settle space and what just some of the high-level solutions are and how that affects us here on Earth, give me a like, a subscribe, and comment below. I'm curious, what do you think are some space problems that once solved will have tremendous solutions and or benefits here on Earth as well? I'm curious. I want to know your thoughts. And if you like this video and like this kind of content, check this one out here. It's also space settlement centric because I'm realizing that's my entire channel and I'm okay with that. And, if you don't click on that and you're still watching this, you got to keep on dreaming. Keep on dreaming about going beyond Earth orbit.